Hi, this is Bill Watkins. Last week we began a study of pursuing joy. And we talked about Psalm 16, verse 11, where he says that in your presence is joy forevermore. At your right hand is joy forevermore. God wants us to pursue joy. Now, what does that mean? That means that, first of all, maybe I need to stop grumbling so much. Do you remember Philippians 2, 14 and 15? Do all things without grumbling or disputing, that you may be blameless and innocent children of God without blemish in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. When my joy doesn't show, my light doesn't shine. But when it does show, that light shines. So maybe I need to be a person who stops grumbling and starts experiencing joy. I said that I was going to give you each week a reason why we need to have joy. Here's the first one, and you may need to write down some of the passages because we're going to go through them in a hurry. First place, pursue joy because God commands us to pursue joy. I want you to listen to Psalm 37, verse 4. Delight yourself in the Lord. Psalm 32, verse 11. Be glad in the Lord and rejoice, O righteous, and shout for joy, all you upright in heart. How about Psalm 67, verse 4? Let the nations be glad and sing for joy. You judge the peoples with equity and guide the nations upon the earth. Or Psalm 100, the first couple of verses. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Or Philippians chapter 4, verse 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Or Matthew chapter 5, verses 11 and 12. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Or 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 12 and 13. Do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though some strange thing were happening to you. But rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. Do you get that again? Joy commanded. Romans 12, verse 12 and verse 15. Rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. I hear people say this is the wrong thing to pursue. Pursuing joy is not what you're supposed to be about. It's pursuing obedience. And I understand what they're saying. But the problem is that God commands joy. So if I'm pursuing obedience, guess what I'm also pursuing? I'm pursuing joy. And that leads to a second thing, and that is people say, you can't command an emotion. Joy is emotion. You don't have any control over that. Well, it's interesting. God commands emotions over and over again in the Bible. Let me just give you a few. Some desires, he says, are forbidden. You shall not covet. Exodus chapter 20, verse 17. Some desires are commanded. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 12. As newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word. Contentment is a commandment, also an emotion. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5 says, be content with what you have. Or this love is a commandment. 1 Peter 1:22, love one another earnestly from a pure heart. Hope is a commandment. Psalm 42, verse 5, hope in God, or again in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13. Peace is a commandment. Colossians chapter 3, verse 15, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Zeal is commanded. Romans 12:11, do not be slothful in zeal, but fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. Sorrow is commanded. Weep with those who weep. Romans 12:15. Tenderheartedness is commanded. Be kind, tenderhearted, forgiving one another. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32. Gratitude is commanded. Be thankful. Colossians chapter 3, verse 15. What's the point? God does command it. Joy is something I need to pursue because the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Are you pursuing joy? It's something you work at, but it's something that comes because we're in the presence of God. This is a command of God that I do not need to ignore. I don't need to ignore it because I will cut myself out of some great blessings if I don't learn to live my life in joy. We'll talk more about this next time. Thanks for watching.